Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is Hunter from Astrophotography. Now, you're probably wondering why we're sitting on the ground for the most part on this concrete pad and what's inside of this box here. Well, you should already know what's inside this box here before, because this is a Seestar S50 from ZWO. I've had this now for a couple of months and I've been using it quite a bit, but I've owned this now for about 6 months or so. I purchased it back in February, and then I've used it ever since then. I used it during the space camp through Virginia Space Flight Academy. I've been doing a whole bunch of different, astronomical events. It went to Texas with me for the total solar eclipse, and I wanted to kind of do a comparison video from the first time opening up this smart telescope to 6 months later now, to see if my initial thoughts are the same or different compared to what they are now. Now you hear a bunch of different stories about this smart telescope right here. They're saying, oh, it's just a child's toy, don't waste your money on it, it can't do serious astrophotography with it. And then you have some that are really impressed with this system alone, about how easy it is to use and being able to actually produce some pretty darn good images overall with a $499 smart telescope with a camera in it that you can control from your smartphone. Now, today we're going to be going through what is my thoughts now for the Seestar and what I actually recommend it to someone, especially starting off in the hobby of astrophotography or just owning a telescope in general. So we're just going to go ahead and open this up. I'm going to continue to keep talking about, my impressions as regarding the Seestar as of now. And let me tell you, this thing has been put through the absolute ringer of tests here over the past couple of months. And when you open up inside of this case here, which is really nice that they give you a case, you get this little tripod here. I mean, it's basically a comparison to the ZWO TC40 that you would put your AM3 or AM5 on. So it's not too terribly bad. Wish was a little bit better, especially when you're trying to, be able to center this thing and level it. It's kind of a little bit difficult with the tripod legs itself, but there is definitely a accessory that is definitely a must for this, and it's from Newer. It has this here that screws on top of the tripod itself, so it's kind of like a little addition to it. You just twist it on, and what happens here, these little dials here is very fine-tuned adjustments to be able to level your Seestar, and it is painfully quicker and then trying to use the legs in itself. And of course, in the box you do get the Seestar in itself, which had a recent firmware upgrade now to version 2 with a bunch of new features as well, which I know the main one that people have been asking about is the mosaic mode. It's not quite there yet, unfortunately. So you twist that right on there. Also, you get included a solar filter, which is what we're going to be using today as I'm discussing my thoughts with the Seestar in itself. So, because there is some really big, and I mean big, sunspots in visibility right now. So, all in all, the design here, it is pretty rugged. I have accidentally dropped this thing a couple of times, and it's so durable. And the nice part is, and still the same that I think, is being able to take this anywhere. You just have to make sure that you have a device that has the capability of having Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capabilities in itself, and access to the internet. Now, with the iPad that I have, it is very old. To tell you how old, it still has the home screen button, which if I'm taking it out in the field, I have issues of trying to find where it is, because it doesn't have GPS. It uses the internet define kind of where its location is. But if you're using, just a regular smartphone, no problems whatsoever. You'll be able to have a decent charge on this too. I've actually had this running for a couple of hours for some nights too, but you can also plug in, directly into the USB to like a wall outlet or a portable battery pack, which actually, with the use of the Seestar for a while, I have opened up that print shop, which is going to be today's sponsor.
Are you ready to take your astrophotography to the next level? At Alton Astro Prints, we've got the perfect 3D printed solutions to enhance your stargazing experience. Welcome to Alton Astro Prints on Etsy, your go-to shop for custom 3D printed accessories designed specifically for astrophotography. We know that capturing the beauty in the night sky requires more than just a great camera. It requires the right tools and setup. From cable management solutions for your deep sky cooled cameras to mounts for your mini computers or accessories that are designed to make your astrophotography setup smoother and more efficient. Each product is crafted from durable PETG material built to withstand the extremes of hot, cold, and dew-filled nights, but also designed to handle the toughest conditions so you can focus on capturing those breathtaking celestial moments without worrying about your gear. Whether you're an amateur stargazer or a seasoned astrophotographer, Alton Astro Prints has a little something for everyone as we continue to grow our selection. Explore a range of accessories and discover how we can enhance your night sky adventures. Visit us today at Alton Astro Prints on Etsy and find your perfect accessory to elevate your astrophotography experience. Let us know how we can help you reach the stars.
With that said, there is many different accessories available for the Seestar, and honestly, I have been extremely impressed with this device in general, especially for the price point. I mean, you got different smart telescopes out there too that are more money, but I think the quality is superiorly better, especially when it comes to the images itself. When doing, simple terrestrial viewing, views at the sunspots, you have looking at the moon with the craters, and even astrophotography has pulled some pretty impressive images with this little guy here if you know how to really get the full potential and how to process your images from this in general. So we're going to go ahead and get this turned on here so we can look at a little bit of the sun in itself. So when the first time using this was actually when we were looking at a little bit of some sunspot activity, and I was definitely impressed because you don't have to really, set this due north, or you just have to make sure it's level, turn it on, connect to your phone or iPad, and you're ready to go.
Ready to connect.
And a nice part, it does talk to you too. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the iPad over here, and we're gonna open this thing up as I continue to talk about some of the features that this includes in general. So with the new update, we actually have a really cool ability now, which is basically being able to open the arm here without having to manually do it. Before, when this first came out, that option wasn't there. So for you to put on your solar filter, you kind of had to basically manually move this thing out. It was a little bit of a pain in the butt. So it's just really nice to be able to just hit one single button and the arm will come out so you can go ahead and safely install your filter. So let's go ahead and open up the Seestar app here so we can go ahead and start looking a little bit on the solar surface, especially with this new update. So opening up the app, you're greeted with this brand new splash screen, and at the top we can see we have this nice little button here that open up the arm. Very easy and a very great addition, because this update wasn't here when I went to Sulphur Springs, Texas for the eclipse, and it was a little bit of a pain trying to get the solar filter on and off, but they have now fixed that, which is great. And this thing performed way better than my expectations led to believe for the first time experiencing anything in regards to a total solar eclipse. The video, which I'll have on the screen here, just shows that this camera here, which has the Sony IMX462, which is a now discontinued planetary camera in itself, which is still integrated inside of the Seestar, but it has about a full 1080p resolution, but the frame rate is 136 FPS, which is fantastic when it comes to doing especially solar or lunar viewing, and be able to get some really great images out of this too. And we can able to see, you know, the solar prominences in the background of that, the clouds going through, and it's just been a wonderful tool. Me trying to grab a camera for this, especially going that far, wouldn't have been, you know, the most ideal, and this was able to track the entire time in the center. So I was one of the lucky ones compared to everyone else who had just regular DSLR cameras, having to constantly keep adjusting when fighting the clouds. This kept it in the center the whole time. So I just set it up, start taking pictures just the whole duration of the event, and it was flawless. I was blown away about how wonderful and easy this was to take it over 1,300 miles from the East Coast to the Southern Plains here in the United States, and just have no issues whatsoever. Flawless. Other things, looking at the sun, sunspots. This performed better than some of the stuff of my other astrophotography equipment because of that faster focal length, and well, not really faster focal length, the faster FPS of the camera, since the only other planetary camera I have is the ASI 174mm, which is a mono. It's also nice to be able to have, you know, something that's like a planetary camera and it being a color, especially for things like that, for like sunspot activity. So we'll go ahead and start adding the solar filter to this. You just pop that sucker right in there, and then we'll go ahead and do the calibration for, you know, being able to do the leveling, especially with this new addition here. So we're going to go ahead and do that by adjusting the level, which is actually not too terribly bad, as a matter of fact. So there is a little bit of some wind today, but as long as we get it somewhat close, this would be a great little test for this. It is very sensitive into the wind. I mean, it is very light in general. So we're going to let this go ahead and find the sun under the solar systems tab, and go ahead and go gazing. So it's going to go ahead and find its target here in just a second. Now, a solar transit has been something I've been wanting to do, but I never really had the, you know, equipment to actually make this possible, because it is such a very narrow window that only happens maybe ever so few months. But the biggest thing is being able to have something that kind of keeps it in the center of the sun or the moon. But we had an event here about a month and a half ago where the International Space Station happened to pass in front of the sun when I was at work. So I went ahead and brought this with me to work one morning, and I just set it outside there and just, you know, waited for the predicted time to rise up, and it performed flawlessly. I didn't have a camera that was able to have a high enough frame rate, since this does use that IMX462 sensor with that 136 frame rate. It made it a breeze. It kept the sun in the center and was able to actually video the transit moving across the sun, and in really decent detail too. I was able to actually get it so I had a little bit of a time lapse for it. So that was the first time I ever was able to capture a transit, and it was the help of the Seestar here. And we actually had, you know, decent weather for it, surprisingly. Now, with all the other equipment I have, I don't think I would have been able to do something like that. So definitely another +1 for the Seestar that has blown away my expectations with that as well. So now we got a little bit of a view of the sun right now, and we got a very, very large sunspot complex, and to be able to, go into video mode. Now it is very windy today, but we're gonna try to do our best in regards to this. So it's gonna be taking like a 1-minute video, and then we'll go ahead and stack the data in general, make sure it's in the raw format, and we're doing so. So there we go. So we'll let that do its thing here. As far as, being able to do nighttime, like astrophotography wise, I've had a lot of times playing with this, and let me tell you, we got some pretty impressive pictures from this where I imaged both the Trifid Nebula. Now, this version of the Trifid Nebula is better than anything I have pulled off with my actual astrophotography rig, which is completely mind-blowing to me that it looks this good, and the color is very nice too. Also did the Dumbbell Nebula. That was another beautiful image taken with this. Both had about 2.5 hours of data. I just really wish that there was a way that maybe sometime in the future from ZWO might implement this, be able to have kind of like a EQ mod to this, to be able to use kind of like a setup so you can actually polar align this, because with the issue with the alt azimuth when it comes to doing astrophotography wise, since there is the rotation of the earth and it's tilted, we have the problem of field rotation around the outside. So you do have to crop a little bit, especially if you're taking, a couple of hour exposures for something like this, and you have to crop it out and deal with the field rotation with this. Maybe something down the line, you might have, a wedge, and then be able to do like a polar alignment opportunity, or like a routine, kind of like similar with the ASI Airs that they have for, the ASI Air Plus in itself. Just something I wish they could be able to do something like that too, because that would be an absolute game changer, especially for this price here. But all in all, I have taken pictures of very near comets that were going through. We did lastly like A3. That one came out pretty well. There was also another one, Swift, that had some really good results as well. We had the so-called the Devil's Comet that provided some beautiful images. Even just simple things, just like, star clusters, globular clusters, some nebulae, even some galaxies, are pretty impressive with this thing regardless, man. I've been very, very excited for something like this too, especially if this was my first telescope and I haven't done astrophotography before. I'd be ecstatic for something like this. And it really shows from over the summer months when I was doing space camp, because I would bring, a visual telescope, which would have been my Explore Scientific, or during the last one where I did the video for was with my big, huge Dobsonian. And I also had this little guy with me. And let me tell you, more people were interested in this. I kid you not. They were more interested in this little tiny thing because it was taking pictures for them. Because the difference between visual astronomy and, electronic assisted astronomy is being able to put the picture to it. So people can take photos and they see the exposure start rolling in, and it starts getting a little bit better with the live stacking. And they were absolutely thrilled. They were blown away. They were fighting over my phone to be able to use this thing. And the awesome thing is, with the incredible response that something like this has happened, with the director for Virginia Space Flight Academy has brought up the idea of doing a STEM module now for astrophysics and astrophotography to be able to do things like this too. So maybe, maybe down the line, ZWO, once we get things kind of going with that, maybe we can work something out. So when we have these modules available, be able to, send a little bit of these to these students and being able to have it for our classrooms, because that would be absolutely fantastic. So all in all, in this past 6 months, my expectations for the Seestar, better, absolutely better from the start. Just the matter of how easy it is to use something like this without having to, go to star alignments with some of the go-to systems before. The tracking is not that good, especially when going that, routine of, going to one star, going to a different star. You just turn this thing on, make sure it is level, and you're good to go. It does all the work for you, which is great for a beginner for something like this. And even for someone who's a seasoned astrophotographer like myself, I love taking this out with my actual rig as well, because I love to be able just to go to different things, not spend, multiple nights on one single target. I can just go through, capture some 10-minute exposure times, and just bounce around the whole night, because I'll be able to do plate solving. It'll point exactly where it needs to be. It does the live stacking. You can edit right on the app itself. Or, if you want to go further down the line, there's other, free softwares out there like Cyril to be able to process your images. I like using PixInsight because it's one of the most powerful tools for astrophotography to use. But the everyday person would love this thing in general. I mean, still, the experience of looking at visual astronomy is a great gateway. I've done it for 15 plus years now, and that's how I first started out, and it got me into astronomy. And being able to visually see some things, that's really cool when stuff like that, be able to see with your eyes. But being able to photograph it too is a huge thing, and that's why astrophotography is such a wonderful thing in general. So my expectations for this have been actually blown away. So ZWO did a wonderful thing here to be able to, provide something like this at an affordable rate. And even right now too, with the ongoing sale, the planetary sale, it's actually 10% off right now. I will have a link in the description below to be able to go ahead and purchase this. And it's about $50 off right now. So now's the time to get something like this too. Especially, they're great gifts, especially for your kids, to be able to go outside, and even adults too, to be able to take photos of the heavens and just really, get them outdoors and exploring the night sky. Definitely, if you want to get something like this for, yourself or like your kids, this is definitely a great tool, and it's a great intro to the world of just astrophotography and just astronomy in general. So yeah, that is literally everything I have to say about it. Any cons with this system? The only really one that I have, it's not really a con, it's more of a, something that I'd like to see kind of further on down the line. I know people have been talking about, the mosaic mode. That's a big one in the community right now. Being able to actually have this do like an equatorial like adapter or something like that with a polar alignment like routine, that would be absolutely huge, because then this eliminates the completely like the issue with the field rotation of being in an alt-azimuth mount. The tripod that it comes with it too, I wish there was a little bit of an easier way to being able to balance and level out your tripod, because using the actual tripod itself without this little adapter as well, I'll also have a link to where you can get this little adapter too. You can get it on Amazon, but be able to kind of easily fine-tune, because I did struggle a little bit until I was able to find this little adapter, and that basically just took that problem altogether, which is about $30 or so for this adapter in itself. other than that, from the cons wise, maybe sometime in the future there happens to be a newer version of this. A larger sensor would be really nice too, because you have a lot of like the verticalness in the images, and I like, you know, square sensors in a way, like that's like left and right of that 16:9 ratio, which you can, you know, be able to turn the image with that. But a larger sensor would also be really, really nice for something like this too. So you can have a little bit, you know, wider field of view for stuff and get a lot better resolution. But that may be something of a newer version down the line that may be in the works that we just don't know yet. So those are my final thoughts in regards to the ZWO Seestar S50 over the last 6 months. And gotta say, ZWO, you did good, man. You did real good with this. So thank you for watching. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Sometime here soon I will be testing a product from ZWO as well in regards to the planetary sale. So be on the lookout for that video sometime here in the future. Be sure to hit the notification bell whenever videos start coming out. And if you want to also become a member to the channel too, we do some live stream events. You have access to some of my astrophotography data to be able to go through a lot of the PixInsight tutorials that I have and just kind of get some up to the minute, you know, updates and stuff when they come around for new astronomy events. And, you know, it only costs you 99 cents to do so. So thank you as always. Clear skies, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.